All right, now that we're actually in the code, we've got FilamentFlow set up for our local website. This is our Flow core test website. Let's go ahead and actually build something. So I'm going to go ahead and build a recreation of a different site that I built with this. I kind of started this whole thing called Pager Service. Pager Service allows people to subscribe. Once they've subscribed, it allows them to buy a phone number which is connected to Twilio, and after they have connected to Twilio to pick out a phone number, they can then receive phone numbers at that. So I'm going to add a few packages here. Lib phone number for PHP, that's just some nice formatting and validation. We're going to add the Laravel notification channels for Twilio. And we're going to add Laravel actions because I really love Laravel actions for just recreatable actions. So we're going to go ahead and get those added. And that takes just a minute. All right, so now we have these things added. Since I already have the entire core part of it set up, I don't need to do anything else. But I am going to go ahead and update my webhook URL with Stripe. Now to do that, I need to go ahead and spin up an ngrok or herd share URL. So over here, I'm going to go into this directory. And then I'm going to go into Flow core, and I'm just going to go ahead and herd share. All right, and this is just using expose, which is totally fine. We can see our inbound requests here. And I'm going to go ahead and go into my dashboard, and in products, I'm going to update my Stripe webhook. So instead of this flow core.test, it's going to be this expose URL, but still Stripe webhook. We're just using cashier because at this point we are in subscription land. So for the subscription stuff, I'm still not going to require it, but I'm going to add some conditions to what I'm using for it. And then my Stripe webhook secret is fine. I'm not too worried about that right now. So we've got our Stripe webhook created and we should be good, but we'll find out in just a minute if we're not. So then I'm going to spin over to this user portal. Right, so now we have our Twilio notification channel provider. And I just want to make sure that my stuff's all set up here properly. That should be just fine. Twilio username and password. Now these I already have set up along with a debug2 parameter. This is necessary so that I'm not actually sending messages to somebody else. And that is going to actually be Twilio auth token, Twilio account SID. The from, in my case, is from the SID, but we also have the Twilio debug2. So that should be all good. Now we're going to make a new model for phone, HP Artisan. And we're going to go into our phone model. And as you can see here, everything automatically is using stubs which extend this tenant-aware base model. You can change this if you want back to just use model. If you have multi-tenancy enabled, all of your migrations will automatically include a team ID. And if you are not a super admin, all of the queries are automatically going to look for that team ID. So you don't actually need to do anything else. In my case, I just have a few fillable items. And again, reminder, live coding, so if you see some errors here, that's just the way it is. User ID, Twilio phone number and Twilio SID, and then public function user. And this is going to belong to the user model. I personally do like doc blocks, so if you don't like them, I get it. But I also love the autocomplete and just being able to add notes to my methods. So not required, obviously, but I'm a big fan. All right, now on the user, I'm also going to add an inverse relationship for phone. This is going to be has one. Again, I love my doc blocks. So we'll go ahead and add that. And then we're going to create a migration, which I should have done when I created this. Let's go in here. And thank goodness for GitHub Copilot. It has detected basically everything we need. And then we'll go ahead and run that. And then migrate. All right, so since I'm using SQLite, we're just going to go ahead and view the database in Storm here. And nothing special, but you can see now we have our phones table. Columns are the columns that we've created. So that's all great, but now we need a UI on it. So for that, we're going to make a filament widget. I want this widget to show up on the dashboard here. So the objective is if a user has subscribed, they should be able to find a phone number and purchase the phone number. So nothing crazy, but pretty typical SaaS behavior. So we're going to PHP artisan make sure we spell properly. And this is going to be a custom widget. So we'll select custom. I want it in the app panel. We have our phone number widget. All right, so nothing crazy here. You can see that shows up here now. It's a custom widget, so it's blank by default. And this phone number widget is going to implement forms. We're going to use interacts with forms, which should slim out an awful lot of that. And I believe it's actually protected static and sort. Well, still the same. All right, so we'll just go ahead and continue to ignore that. But we are going to have some data. And we're going to have an array of available phone numbers. And we're going to have a phone, which is the user phone. That's going to default to null. I want the column span to be full. And Copilot got it for me, so thank goodness for that. Now we're going to have a couple methods on here. In the mount, we're going to need to find out if the person already has a phone number selected. We need to be able to search phone numbers, and we need to be able to provision a new phone number for the user. So in the form itself, we're going to start there. empty out the schema that was created here because no part of that's right. And we're going to start with a placeholder because we want some custom verbiage here so we can display it at the top. Content's going to be an HTML string. HTML string. Get your number now. And then we'll just go over here and reload and see if we get anything, but we won't yet because we don't have that in our template. So I'm going to go over to my template. We've got our section, we've got our widget content, but we don't have the form. So we're going to add error form, wire submit, prevent. And in this case, we're just going to do two different things with the same form. So one is if the user already has a phone number selected, we're going to provision it, and the other is we're just going to go ahead and search numbers. For the purposes of keeping this short and tight, we're just going to do the search numbers part and leave it at that. And then we're going to do our this form and a filament button, which I believe is :button. That's going to be type submit. Now we need to add the search numbers method, otherwise it's going to die on us pretty quickly. So I'll go back to my widget and we'll do public function search numbers, and that's going to return void because it's actually going to return available numbers. And then that's okay. Property form not found. So we need to do a form fill in our mount method, which we don't yet have. So we're going to add our public function mount. Again, Laravel Filament basics, area code, nothing, phone number, nothing. And here the custom phone if the user has one. Phone number widget, no property found. Form extends widget implements has forms, and we're interacting with the form, but for some reason it doesn't decide that it wants the form. So let me just take a look here. State path data. And we need to return. That's usually pretty helpful. And all right, now we've got our custom widget. Get your phone number now. And we're going to do a text input, and we're just going to search area code. So here in our schema, we're going to add a text input. And we're going to call it area code and max length 3. So now if we load this up, we've got our area code. So now that we have our UI on this, we need to make sure that we can go ahead and search it. But before we even get that far, I want to make sure that a user can only search for available phone numbers if they have subscribed. So in order to do that, we are going to go ahead and check to see if they're subscribed right out of the gate. So here, if the user is subscribed, that's all we have to do. So I haven't subscribed, it doesn't show up. And then over here, if we subscribe, go to Stripe test cards, grab a test card. Let's go ahead and subscribe here, and that should redirect us right back. All right, we have successfully subscribed. Now we have our area code input. You can see here, real basic UI. This is designed for you to be able to customize it however you want. And now we're going to go ahead and make our action. So this action is going to search available phone numbers for us. And again, this is using Laravel Actions. And I'm going to go ahead and call it phones and search available numbers. Now the thing that I love about actions is I can use them basically anywhere, which makes it a lot easier for code reuse, no class reinstantiation. They can also be used as jobs, queued listeners, any of that stuff. So I definitely highly recommend checking out the Laravel Actions package. Here we're just going to set this up. Twilio, and we're going to say new client, which is Twilio REST client. And this is actually services Twilio account SID, but I need to add those keys. So we'll hop over to services, and then I'll just add a key for Twilio. Account SID and token. And then I'm going to search the numbers. If you need help with this, check the Twilio docs. They're actually pretty good. Country code US. Not a fan of Twilio's pricing, but I do love their service. It's just great. Very easy to set up, as you can see. Here, area code. We want SMS and voice enabled, and we want it to be a local phone number. We're going to dump out an array, and then we're just going to iterate the numbers. Phone number, and we've got a friendly name, and then we're going to return those. To make it a little bit easier to work with, we're also going to save this as a controller, but I'm not going to use that right now, so I'll save that for later. And now if we go back to our phone number widget, search available numbers, and it's just going to pull this in, this data area code, and I'm going to go ahead and dump this out just to make sure that everything's coming back correctly. So here, if I run a 917, we have our list of available phone numbers from Twilio. So beautiful, easy peasy, nice and easy to work with. So now that we've got our numbers, we need to be able to show the numbers. So I'm going to do a select, but we're obviously only going to show this in the event we have numbers available. So it's going to be required. We'll do live because we want it to reflect the live change. We want it searchable because otherwise it gets a little bit annoying. Visible, auth users subscribed, and not empty phone numbers. And then we're going to add a custom validation message to it because we want to make sure that if a user is actually doing this, they select a phone number. So now if we search on this again and remove our dump, we should get a nice select menu of phone numbers. But I guess perhaps not. So let's try this, and then we've got our select menu phone numbers. Laravel formatting is a little bit tricky with Filament sometimes, so I'm not going to dive too deep into that. But as you can see, in just a few minutes, we have created a subscription required custom widget that allows a user to search a phone number and then potentially, if you wanted to continue, provision this phone number for use. Webhooks and all that stuff is set up just based on Laravel Core and Laravel Filament. What we've got here is some basic stuff in web. So everything here can just be used directly through web in terms of actually handling those Twilio inbound webhooks, which you would want to handle if we went deeper into this. And everything else, again, is just configured directly through FilamentFlow. Full Stripe support, full subscription support, full multi-tenancy support. Any additional questions, let us know at filamentflowdev@gmail.com. That's also going to be linked in the YouTube channel and from the website. And we hope you really enjoy using FilamentFlow.